Mike, thanks for hanging out with me. I know we spent a lot of time together talking about startups and what needs to be done to build them, make them grow, make them flourish, and turn them into billion-dollar exits that get sold to Unilever, or nominal exits that get sold to other places.
Sure.
FameBit was a good one for y'all. Congratulations
on that.
On
Nominal.
That. Well, all right. Well, why don't you tell me how much it was?
No, we can't disclose that.
Okay. So
not nominal.
The thesis of this, or the theme of this this event, is what's behind LA's booming tech ecosystem, and I want to sort of tease that out a little bit. Is LA's tech ecosystem booming yet? First of all,
yeah, that's a good question, and I don't really know what a booming ecosystem necessarily looks like.
Right.
I think right now what's nice about being in LA, and in my case, like being an investor and a builder, is that the people I meet have great ideas, and they're pursuing them in really interesting ways, and we're finding supporting capital both in LA, but it's especially out of Silicon Valley. And then when those companies get big, we're finding acquirers are happy to own those companies and keep them located in LA. So I don't know if it's booming, but in the last 10 years, I think the quality of companies that are being built here are probably the best I've seen, which is exciting. And the people behind those companies, which is really what matters, are like great entrepreneurs that are really pursuing big dreams. So that's a good thing.
Big dreams. Isn't LA just the town of big dreams, though? This is where people go to dream big.
You have to remember there's a lot of failures, though, in that spectrum of
I've read Day of the Locust. I know what's up. I've been here before. So you talk about big dreams, and you talk about the evolution of this ecosystem. How would you describe, it seems like Science's business model has also been evolving along with the ecosystem. Can you talk a little bit about where y'all started and the thesis y'all started from and how that's changed?
Yeah, so I have a long background in kind of building companies and scaling companies, and sometimes dealing with broken companies or distressed companies. So I've seen like companies at all different sizes. But I really loved working with entrepreneurs. And one of the problems I saw was that you'd have entrepreneurs, maybe like individuals in this room, that would maybe have access to capital, maybe they have a big idea, but the kind of those steps between an idea and reality, and finding a way to actually take that idea you have or that company you want to build and make it into something that's real, there just wasn't a lot of knowledge, there wasn't a lot of guidance, and there wasn't a lot of structure around it. And so my belief was that if I set up shop in Santa Monica, which we did, and I put great people in that building, then when we came across great entrepreneurs like the founder of Dollar Shave Club or FameBit, et cetera, that we could give them a whole bunch of support to try to increase their odds at being successful. Right? And fundamentally, when you're an entrepreneur, you're stepping into the most risky job scenario you possibly could be in, and with an extremely high failure rate, as you all know, because it's over a 95% failure rate of new companies. So my thought was, if we had good people that could surround you, maybe we could help your chances of becoming successful.
Handily enough, there's an article on TechCrunch today, an interview with Mike in TechCrunch today, so we're sort of double dipping, that one of my colleagues did. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Mike's thesis, you can check that out as well. And one more bit of housekeeping before I return to peppering Mike with questions. If you wanted to actually tweet at me to ask a question to our dear Mr. Jones, you can reach me at Shieber, J-S-H-I-E-B as in boy, E-R, and I will pose your question to Mr. Jones if I deem it worthy, because I'm that kind of jerk. Anyway, beyond that, let's get back to the show. When you think about what's defining the LA ecosystem right now, and think about what's booming here, what are the things that you think have found traction in the market right now?
Well, I think that in the long run, the definition of LA will be around companies that are sustainable and growing and can employ a lot of people and teach people about building technology companies and grow. So that's really what I look for. Is like, what are going to be the cornerstone businesses that will exist 10 years from now that will raise our economy and hopefully build more and more entrepreneurs. One of the unstated ones is Riot Games. So Riot Games, whether you know it or not, happens to be right here in Santa Monica. They are, like, in my opinion, like the leading brand in esports. They have a stadium here in Santa Monica for esports tournaments, and they've pumped out a ton of incredible employees around gaming, and frankly built like a lot of millionaires here in Santa Monica from early employees that benefited from their eventual exit to Tencent, right? So they're a strong cornerstone. I think they'll be here for a very long time. In SaaS, Cornerstone on Demand is a strong cornerstone. They'll be here for a very long time. I think Unilever will continue to invest in Dollar Shave Club. I imagine they will employ, hopefully, at some point, like thousands of people in Los Angeles. I think they'll be here for a long time. So I look at some of those big companies. Snapchat right now is probably the big question. They're huge, they're important, they're incredible value, they're stating they're on a path for an IPO, but nevertheless, they are fighting Facebook in what is, in my opinion, a winner-take-all market. And personally, I think we should all do everything we can to make sure Snapchat wins. Like, I will give them every piece of talent I have to hopefully increase their odds, because the best thing LA could have right now is Snapchat, growing, having a fantastic IPO, employing lots of people, and creating a ton of value for our city. So I would love to see another big social cornerstone here.
Okay, so those are the cornerstones that kind of map out or define some of the previous successes that the ecosystem has. But when you're looking at sort of the market and where you're seeing a lot of activity, y'all are doing a lot of investing now in content. You've got a few content plays.
Yeah.
You've got Dollar Shave Club was an e-commerce play, but is the market for e-commerce still viable? One.
I think, yeah. Okay.
And then two, if it's not, like, what are you looking for in terms of like social?
Sure. I think that I think the market for e-commerce is viable, but I think in my opinion, and we did close to, I think, 12 different deals in direct-to-consumer commerce.
Right.
Like, if your chances are we've sold kind of one of everything in some sort of attempt at commerce breakouts, and we only found, I think 3 companies that will really build and scale, including Dollar Shave Club. I think the bloom is off the rose a little bit for investors in commerce, and that I think we fully recognize the difficulty of doing a commerce startup. So if we were talking about like a software startup, maybe there's 5 things the team operationally has to get really right. When we start talking about a commerce company that's actually going to be manufacturing and shipping their own goods direct to consumer, there's like 10 things they have to get perfectly right. And so for me as an investor, when I look at these commerce companies now, I have to see everything line up. Otherwise, I feel like it's just not gonna work out. So I still love commerce. I see so many pitches. There's so many things I would love to do, but there's very few things. There's almost no things I've seen at this point that I feel like would check all the boxes to make a successful strategy. So what are we doing now? When we first started Science, we did direct-to-consumer commerce and marketplaces. The marketplaces we did in town was Dog Vacay, Home Hero, Handstand, Plows and Mows. Like, we did a lot of these socially driven.
Well, Plows and Mows is new, right?
Plows and Mows is new. It's exciting. But so we did all these socially driven marketplaces, which I love.
Yeah.
But now most of our focus is in mobile. So what I witnessed, and I'm sure like we all witnessed, is like, there's just incredible statistics showing the overarching decline of television consumption for everyone under the age of 25, right? And it's just being spiked up through massive amounts of mobile consumption. And I think right now on a mobile phone, you essentially have 2 TV channels. You have Snapchat and Instagram if you're under the age of 25, and you want a lot more. But most of the stuff being built on the phone, I don't think is really right for entertainment on phones, and I don't think people have figured out the format. And so we're trying to figure out that format. So we're investing very heavily in mobile entertainment for teens. We have a few hit apps now that I feel really good about. We have a bunch more coming. We meet with tons of teams, and I think that overall the skill set of the people in my building now that are thinking about how to scale mobile, monetize mobile, all in the realm of kind of entertainment and content, I think they're really strong. And I think that over time, when I think about big media companies, I think they're really weak at this, and they're really going to need to understand how to build these big mobile apps. And I think we might be able to be guys to do it.
So entertainment is one area where you're sort of running really hard, or running really fast. E-commerce, bloom is off the rose. What are a couple of other things that you're looking for specifically, or that you're looking to incubate or generate from Science?
Well, so I still love these socially driven marketplaces. So it's places where you can find kind of underutilized resources and then increase their utilization through technology. So one was Plows and Mows. It was these like super great entrepreneurs in upstate New York that made a snowplow my driveway on demand app. And they bootstrapped the business themselves. They basically got it to profitability. We came in contact with them. They were working with hundreds of local providers of like snow plowing services, and then they went into grass, and now they have plows and mows, and I think they just announced leaves. They're basically saying to me, like their pitch to me was, we're going to enable you to click a button on your phone, and we'll do whatever you need to do outside the house.
Right.
You'll never have to meet the vendor. We're always going to get you the best price, and we're working with the best-of-breed local providers, and we'll track the whole thing for you. And these guys in upstate New York, they just hacked this solution together, and I think they have a completely amazing company. They've already had M&A interest, which is just like amazing. The numbers are better every single day. And so it's one more example of a great marketplace where mobile has consolidated a highly fragmented local industry.
Right.
And so I like those opportunities.
If you were to think about some of the things that would constrain this booming LA ecosystem, or some of the things that concern you when you look at how things are developing, is there anything on the horizon that would give you pause, or that you'd like to see folks work to address right now?
Well, I mean, I can't speak to the political situation, but I can say that like everything we do typically relies on capital.
Right.
You know, more capital builds businesses. It doesn't necessarily build better businesses, but it gets more businesses built. And probably, like you've all seen, there's businesses that can be bootstrapped, and there's businesses that require substantial investment. You know, we typically focus on the latter, although in my own career I've done the former as well. So, you know, capital constraints will slow down all the things that we're all working on, right? And so I kind of proportionally think of my strategic time relative to the capital markets. So if we're going into certain businesses that require a lot of money, I have to take a really big pause back and be like, do I think right now this founder will be able to raise this amount of money to become successful, even if I think they're great and their business is a great idea?
Yeah, but I mean, so much of capital now is not only just sort of local or regional, but global, right?
Yeah.
So there's access to markets, whether they be in LA or not.
Yeah.
Does that matter?
I think it does. I think at the earliest stages, I mean, it's funny. I was meeting with some investors up north yesterday, and I was thinking about how they must look at all of us, right? So you're walking into an investor's room, and you're saying, I have, in essence, no traction, no proof that this is a good idea, a really good PowerPoint deck, and I've got a theory on why this is going to work out, and I'm going to sell you a small piece of the business, right? I mean, it's a crazy concept, right? like you're, you know, the investor's like, what am, you know, and it's a really hard asset class, but what that means to me is it's also honestly very local, because in my mind, it means that investors have to personally connect with you, and they have to personally connect with your vision at the earliest stages. Now, at the later stages, it's very different. At the later stages, it's much easier to take metrics and go abroad and find investors off of traction and known outcomes. But at the earliest stages, those first dollars, I think it is local.
Right.
And so the fact that you do see much more seed investings happening abroad, I don't think that it impacts us.
Now, would you, with science, would you look to, because a number of venture firms have seed, they have sort of growth capital funds, and then they have late stage. Some of them even have very late stage funds. Would you diversify along that axis as well to go or up the stack? Yeah,
well, I mean, venture in many cases, I think we should think of them as bespoke. The bespoke businesses.
Right.
And so, you know, the science's thesis is really built off of the passion I have and the passion that my partners have. And right now our passion is the super early stage. So I see lots of neat opportunities in later stage, and I'd love to play in those at some point. But right now what I like is sitting down with a founder with a concept in front of a whiteboard and a dry erase marker and just seeing if we can find a way to make that real. And I get really excited about those 0 to 1 moments. But, you know, maybe when I don't want to work as hard and lazier, I'll work on the later stage stuff. You know, like I don't have to go to the office so much or something.
Oh man, way to throw shade at the earlier panel.
No, listen,
Come on.
The later guys are amazing, but it's just a very different pace.
Okay, so there's a question from the floor that I'm going to pose now, because one, I like it when I don't have to work and y'all do the work for me. It's really great. I appreciate it. Let's keep that coming. And this is from Derek Franco. Derek, thank you so much. Does LA give startups a better sense of the US market or the global market because of the diversity that exists here in the city versus what you might find in more of a monoculture like San Francisco?
Oh, I don't know if that's the case. I think that from a creative perspective, sure. Like, I think LA's always been that taste center of like generating trends, which is why the entertainment industry obviously has been so amazing here, and why a lot of the creative startups have started here. And I think that you see like a lot of the bigger platform companies that are maybe a little bit more utilitarian nature have typically been built up north. So I guess from a cultural perspective, I think LA does have an advantage. That doesn't necessarily mean we build better businesses. It just means that maybe we are a little bit more in tune with what's going to influence the world, maybe because of the connection to the entertainment industry.
Does that then, how do you build the platform businesses down here, or do they just do they just come? You talk about these cornerstone businesses.
Yeah, I mean, Snapchat is definitely in the world of trying to become a platform business.
Right.
Many LA companies don't make that jump,
right.
Because they either kind of wall themselves off, or they don't allow partnerships to work with them well, or they don't open their systems or whatever. Certainly a built to last business down in LA would be fantastic if it was a platform.
Right.
Riot in certain cases can be seen as a platform. Cornerstone, I think in certain cases can be seen as a platform, but certainly not to the level or extent that anything up north has been done.
Right.
So I think we can build great businesses. I don't think I've seen like a platform company really coming out of LA yet.
So, I mean, Snapchat has the potential to be that kind of platform company, but what does that kind of platform look like? What do you need? What does a company like Snapchat need to do to embrace that platform status?
So I think if you look at Google, YouTube, and Facebook, and we want to talk about.
You want to just say Alphabet now?
Sure. Oh God. Yeah. Well, and let's throw Amazon in there.
Okay.
And let's call those core platform businesses. One thing that makes them all, I think, one consistency between them all is it allows you and/or other small businesses to make money on top of their activity and platform, right? Like you can make money through Facebook, creating content or generating traffic. You can make money through games. You can make money through Amazon selling product. Make money through YouTube through content. So I think part of it is understanding that you build up a bunch of audience to a core, and then you find ways for lots of partners to participate in the ecosystem around that, and then you have a lot of people that are very motivated to keep you successful.
Right.
There's a lot of people very motivated to keep Google and Facebook and Amazon successful, right?
Right.
Most LA companies don't really think that way. Mm-hmm. They think about their success. Now, Snapchat has opened up Discover, right? And there are people becoming successful on Snapchat, and there are influencers being built. And so it has that potential, but most companies never make that jump.
There's a question from the floor again that I'm gonna ask you. So 2016 LA raises and exits are on track or will surpass 2015 levels on the back of fewer deals. Why are there fewer seed and Series A rounds getting done right now? Was that the market retraction because of the bubble bursting scare?
Yeah, I think the kind of change in the nature in last February kind of constrained. And what I think you used to have, if you guys weren't aware, is like you had this really big mouth of the funnel around seed and kind of Series A deals, and then it got real narrow in the later stages, B, C, D. And when the market constricted, a bunch of the venture capitalists, I think, held their money back for their later stage portfolio. So I would suspect that if we dove into those numbers, we would find that companies that were already established were getting more and more funding, but fewer newer companies were kind of entering into that flow.
Right. And just on a final, we've got to wrap up the panel. I could talk to you all day about this stuff. So who are you supporting in the presidential election?
That's right. Yeah, I'm a serious Hillary supporter.
Why are you a serious Hillary supporter?
Because I'm a sane individual, and I don't like supporting people that demean women.
That's crazy talk, my friend, crazy talk. Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate the time, as always, sir.
Thanks.
Damn fun.
Thanks for having
Thank you.
me.